Hi, my name is Tiffany Rodrigues. I'm an educational technology coach at Enterprise Elementary School District in Redding, California. And today we're going to talk about technology, whether to use it or not to use it, to find out if it is helpful or whether it'll be a hindrance in your classroom, and to really figure out why we're using technology in our classroom. So it's important to figure out how technology has already transformed your classroom. You can look at this timeline and just see some tools that some may even seem archaic, some we laugh about, and some are what we all use and see in our classrooms right now. If you could take a moment with the people around you, go ahead and discuss what you're using in your classroom now. You can also think about what did you use and how is what you're using now transformed your classroom. Many have posted and put things how they have things like one-to-one devices now, meaning each student, every one student has one device that they can use, whether it is a laptop, Chromebook, computer, mobile device, iPad, tablet, which is very different from a lot of the first ones, or the first items you see here, where it was teacher-based and the students had their pencil and paper. Now, a lot of these items are still used in the same way. For example, a overhead projector can also be used as they're kind of used in the same way to project what's on the screen. The teacher can control what the students see. And as well as having a computer in the classroom, students used it for a lot of the same reasons. Word processing, creating things like that. But we want to start thinking about how is technology transforming your classroom, and really why would we use it anyway? Speaking of why we would use technology anyway, this is another moment for you to discuss with the people around you what are the main reasons why you think technology are used in a classroom. Some of the main ones given to us by Mathis are a big one right here in the middle is student engagement. It has created a way for students that may not have always been interested or engaged can find interest in even some of the things that they would not have found interesting before, just because they're viewing it through a different frame, through technology, through a game, through in a social media outlet, through something that they wouldn't normally think is interesting. With that engagement often comes student involvement. I've had many teachers claim that if they put a blank piece of paper in front of a student, or if they put a laptop in front of a student with a blank document, they will get more writing out of the student just because the student gets to type on the computer than the one that has the blank paper and a piece of and a pencil. Now, there are many students that will be involved regardless of what they're using. So it is important to understand that involvement and engagement are important, but again, we want to make the technology meaningful, not just making sure that everyone's using it. There are resources like crazy online on the internet. There are apps that are great for education. There are programs that students can use that can help fill in any gaps or can extend their knowledge and their learning. And like many people have said, the internet is now one of the main pieces of information that people use. When others would used to go to a set of encyclopedias or run to a dictionary, they can Google the information in 5 seconds. So it is a great use of, it's a great resource for the students. Our job then shifts from how to find the information to what do you do with the information that you find. Differentiation, oftentimes with inquiry-based projects that can be facilitated using technology, the instruction can be differentiated through the students because they can decide how they're conveying the information that they've gotten, instead of making every student give you the same product. On top of that, students can use apps differently, synthesize the work that they have differently, and really show you what they know. And automatically, your teaching is differentiated. And finally, building a digital citizen. Our society's changing, and having so many things be digital means that there's a new set of skills and citizenship that students need to carry over into the digital world that need to be taught by a lot of teachers and the people around them, and be modeled because many students and people find being behind the screen feels like safety, but in actuality, what you do and say online can be permanent and needs to be considered when you're doing it. It is important to think if your technology is helpful or a hindrance. Technology, like anything that's novel or new, can be a distraction. Even when a new person walks in the room, it can be a distraction to your students. So there needs to be some classroom management and in general management of the technology and how your students are using it. So some tips on how to engage your students but keep them on task while using the technology is actually giving the students time to explore. Taking away the initial novelty. If you just put them on a device and say, I need you to do only these tasks, but they have the world in front of them, you may have wanderers, and then you'll be wondering why they are they're wandering from the task at hand. So sometimes it's nice to kind of beat them to the punch and give them that time to explore and show them that you respect them and want them to be the explorers that they are. Also, utilizing social media or the social media techniques like online discussions. There are many districts that that block social media like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. But if you don't, it's a great place to communicate, have students communicate, and you'll find that they pay attention and they stay engaged greatly in those discussions. If your social media has been blocked, there are things like Google Classroom where you can still have a forum where students are posting, and you'll find that even the most quiet student will put in their 2 cents because they feel more comfortable, because they don't have to speak it out loud, but they can type it in. Find apps that are trustworthy and effective. You want to make sure that you know what's in the app so that if students are clicking around and moving, that they don't come across something that you don't want them to see. But you also want the apps to be effective so that it's a good use of your time and your students' time. And then finally, try to facilitate projects where your students research but have clear expectations. That research portion kind of goes back up to exploring and discovering. Instead of giving them the information you want, give them expectations of what kind of products you want, meaning what kind of quality of products, maybe not telling them exactly what product you want, and then letting them research it on their own and giving them that freedom. It's important to decide whether technology should be used or whether you should really unplug and kind of go the old-fashioned route. 2 ways. There is a Google form that I've linked on here, and sometimes it's good to get feedback after you've used technology from your students to see how helpful it was, have them rank it, see how they felt about it. Maybe do a comparison side by side of using something with technology, or using something, paper and pencil, and seeing actually if the students felt like they learned more or how they did. And their feedback can often be a huge piece to knowing whether you should be using it. Also, as a teacher, you can make a T-chart, like a pros and cons chart, helpful or hindrance, and you can try evaluating the activity before you even give it to decide if it will be enhanced by the technology or if you really think it'll be too much of a distraction and the learning will suffer because of the technology. It is important to unplug, and as people of this generation, many of us have cell phones, have mobile devices that we are on that we use to socialize, and we also use for our work, and we're constantly checking our emails and items. It's important for us to unplug and get to enjoy the world around you. It's all about balance. Take a link here and click on it. It's a pretty funny YouTube video about how helpful technology can be, but in the end there are some activities where technology is just not going to do the trick. Yeah, check it out. It's pretty funny. At this point, I have all my references here. But this is a time for question and answers. Feel free to contact me, trodrigues@eesd.net. And I'd love to hear any feedback. We'd love to hear the discussions that you and your colleagues had while watching this video.